All right, let's get back to The Last Dance. And we talked briefly with Jack McCallum about, Jordan's, the fact that he just didn't stand up for social issues, period. And, Jesse Helms, that was an easy one. I do think, Jack kind of alluded to it, Jordan being what was he at that age? Maybe 28, young. Obviously wasn't, just wasn't astute on political issues. And to be honest, may not be now.
But the only thing...
I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm just saying that
no,
I think that's a big part of why he, didn't get involved, because he just wasn't into that stuff and may not even be at this point.
I get that, Chris. Here's the only reason why I have an issue, whether he said it in jest or not on the bus. It was conscious about the Republicans buying sneakers. That meant something.
Well, but it's not right. Like, there are black Republicans.
No,
and I'm not with the camp that just brushes them all off as sellouts.
I'm not brushing them all off because I said this before. Back in 1968, 35% of black people were Republicans. So
right.
I get the history
Martin
of
Luther
the
King and
I get
Douglas.
That.
Yeah.
But then you leave a party when they don't have your best interests at heart. So here's my point. I get it. You could use it as an excuse. But when you're talking about a guy like Jesse Helms, who's a card-carrying bigot, not like, just because you don't like him, Chris, or what. This is a
right.
card-carrying, proud bigot who had no problem talking down to black people. That to me is a layup. And your own mother asked you to do this for her. Your own mother. Right. And here's the other part. I don't know what episode it was, Chris. Was it 2 or 3? Where he talked about Wilmington, North Carolina, how it was racist and he wanted nothing more than to get out of that town. Do you remember that?
Yep.
I was surprised Jordan said that. He could have left his hometown out of it without putting it out there like that, but he said it. So
I agree with you that he should have spoken out. I'm just saying, I don't think at that time, and I don't want to say this with certainty today, but it looks like it from the fact that, as you said, he didn't speak out. He didn't even say, I made a mistake. I think he's almost oblivious to that stuff as far as politics. Granted, somebody probably told him, I would think, what Jesse Helms was about. I
hope so.
Right. But I just think he was just oblivious to that. But bottom line is, it's no excuse. It's no excuse. Right.
And let's say this. So I have a new writing gig. I want to announce that here on The Odd Couple. So I've been writing for the Shadow League for 7 years, Chris, and moved on. I got a nice opportunity with Deadspin.com. They got new people in management, people with journalistic background who I respect. So I wrote my first column today for Deadspin.com, and it was about Michael Jordan. And it's funny, even Jack brought up the same exact point, which I brought up, that even 30 years later, Jordan still couldn't do it, even last night.
Right.
There was the opportunity, Chris, to just say, you know what? I was young, I was immature, I was all about me. And thinking back, I wish I would have endorsed Harvey Gantt, or I made a mistake, or whatever. You know what I mean? If I think about it now as an older guy, knowing the ramifications, knowing what Jesse Helms meant to black people in North Carolina, and all of that, that's all he had to say. That's all he had to say. And he couldn't even say that last night. What did you make of that?
I agree. I think he should have apologized. Now, the closest he got was when he said, was that selfish?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably. But that was where my energy was at. So he I guess you could say maybe you could reach and say, acknowledge it was wrong, but he should have apologized. And that's why, again, I don't think I'm not trying to make an excuse for him. No, I just understand that some people just do not, some people just don't know what's going on in those types of realms. But you're right. It was, I just wonder if people let him know, look, you don't know what this dude's about. You know what I'm saying?
Because obviously this is your own mother, Chris.
Right,
this is your own mother. This isn't like some black group that came out of nowhere. I don't know these people, right? I don't know these people. And they're telling you, Mike, come on, Mike. His mother was involved in Gant's campaign. Do you know Gant got 47% of the vote without Michael Jordan?
She was involved. I didn't know she was involved in his campaign.
Like she was like having a fundraiser. She was like a big proponent of this guy. And I looked it up today. He ran against Helms twice. He had 47% of the vote, Chris, in 90. And then what was it, 96? He had 46%. So it wasn't like he was no competition or he was going to get run over.
Right.
That's without Michael Jordan.
No, I didn't know his mom was involved in the campaign. Wow, that makes it even more glaring. But I was surprised that he turned his mom down.
I am too.
You know what I'm saying? That was
I am.
You know, we talk about is anything we're seeing surprising us. That shocked me. I was like, wow, it was that much. You know what I mean?
It ain't
like you
Joe
turn
Blow.
your mom down, right?
Your mom comes to you and says, Chris, I want you to do me a favor.
Yeah.
And I think if I remember,
she's involved with it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was surprising. But anyway, here's what you mentioned something else, and again, congratulations on your new gig with Deadspin. And I read your column today. It was very good. Surprised me.
Thank you.
I'm just playing. It was good.
No,
but
very happy with the first one. If you get a chance, please go to deadspin.com and look up my name and read that first one.
One thing you mentioned was that Ali is viewed as the GOAT, not because he was necessarily the greatest boxer we've ever seen, although I think that's arguable, but he lost. He lost 4 or 5 times. 5 times, I believe. But he's viewed as the greatest because of what he did outside of the ring. So here's what got me thinking. Isaiah Thomas has said this, and obviously we know Isaiah's got his, axe to grind with Jordan, and it goes both ways, clearly. Yep. But he believes LeBron is the greatest, and he has said what you just said. In fact, a friend of mine, Ving Rhames, we're friends. Ving says the same thing. He says, look, Ali is the GOAT because of what he did both in the ring and outside of the ring. So I'm throwing to you, Rob Parker. Why can't LeBron be the GOAT for what he's done outside of off the court?
You know why?
What he's done on the ring, on the court is good. Not quite as good as Jordan, but what he's done off the court is obviously tremendous and arguably, I'm off the top of my head, but what basketball player ever has done that much? I mean, we saw guys in the 60s stand up, Oscar Robertson for free agency and stuff, but off of the court, So what, I'm throwing that out to you.
My biggest thing is Jordan is such through the stratosphere about what he accomplished on the court. And ultimately, Chris, it is about your basketball. If Jordan was, 4-2 and won 3 MVPs in the finals instead of all 6, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like then you could take a look, and I think LeBron would have a case. I do. But when a guy is head and shoulders above everybody and denied 10 Hall of Famers just by a count, we probably could find more, Chris, if we took our time, right? Denied those guys from winning, dominated the way he did, offensively, defensively, what he went through, how he battled, 7 years without winning, people ripping him, he'll never win, he's just a dunker, all the other stuff that went on. And for him to persevere, go away from the game for almost 2 years, come back and pick up where he left off, winning again. I don't know if anybody's story is as compelling or as complete on the court to be able to have somebody's off the court knock them off their pedestal.
No, it's a good, solid answer. And I do think, obviously Jordan, once he started winning, he was spotless on the court. But I also think it's this. I think that Ali conquered, even though he lost, he conquered every opponent in the ring. Sonny Liston, and a lot of them were shocks, right? Surprises.
Right, when he beat Sonny Liston.
Right, he wasn't supposed to, and people thought he was going to get demolished by Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was like Tyson. Forget Deontay Wilder. He was like Mike Tyson. That was his rep. And here comes this thin, heavyweight who's fast and doesn't hit as hard as Liston. and he's talking all this trash, and people think he's going to get demolished. And he beats Liston. Then he starts dominating the heavyweights. Then he loses to Frazier, but regains beat Foreman. Like, Foreman was, people in Ali's camp thought he might get seriously and permanently hurt in that fight. And he beats Foreman. Then he goes back and avenges his loss to Frazier. Then he loses it later to Leon Spinks, but comes back and avenges. So he conquered, like, everything in the ring. It's kind of like when LeBron came back against Golden State and won, from the 3-1 deficit. But it was like Ali did that multiple times where you think he's not going to win, and he wins. So I think that's a big part of it as well, that, when LeBron won his 2 in Miami, I mean, they're supposed to win it 2, 3, 4. Right? In Miami.
Right. So it didn't feel as good.
Right,
and if had they won 3 in a row.
It wasn't like an upset. It wasn't like you weren't supposed to win. And so, now LeBron's been in positions to pull off upsets, but hadn't been able to do it other than the 3-1. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. Remember, Ali was the first heavyweight to regain the title 3 times. 3 times. So again, he conquered every single foe in the ring, whereas LeBron, while obviously tremendous and what he's done is incredible, he hasn't conquered every foe. He hasn't conquered every foe. He didn't conquer Durant and the Warriors. He obviously conquered them without Durant, but he conquered San Antonio once, but then they came back and took it. So I think that's what it is, Rob.
No, I get that. I get that. I think it's LeBron has done so many good things, and he's compiled so many numbers. But boy, that winning, it's just so hard to shake that, Chris. You know what I mean? And especially when you're perfect.
And I also think this, and here's what a lot of people don't understand this about Ali. We know that he refused to go fight in Vietnam, and he was exiled from boxing for 3 years. People nowadays kind of look at that like, oh, okay, he had to sit out 3 years. He knew he'd be back. No. For all he knew, he was giving up everything he had fought his whole life for since he was 12 years old and started boxing to be heavyweight champ. He was willing to give that up. We didn't know if he was ever going to fight again. So he was willing to give that up, his career. And obviously, a lot of Americans, people look at him now. Oh, everybody loved Ali. He lit the Olympic torch, man.
No.
At least half of America, more than half of America probably hated Ali.
Don't you remember? People hated that Howard Cosell talked to him.
Yep.
Do you remember that Howard Cosell had backlash? That
and
they
he
would
was
give
the
him.
first one to call him Muhammad Ali.
Yes, they wouldn't even call him by his name.
Yep.
Because they were so, against the whole movement. It was more like he Cassius Clay. I'm not calling him that. I mean that's what it was.
Black dudes was calling him Clay,
right?
Insisting on it.
But the thing that was great too, I think, is for Ali to go from that to lighting the Olympic torch in 19. Chris, that is from a draft dodger stripping you of your of your title. To that's like one of the biggest honors in for a country, for you to light the torch on the Olympics. I mean, and Muhammad Ali was the guy who got to do it. That's incredible.
No, it really was. And so that's an interesting conversation and discussion. I'll be interested to see what the listeners think. 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. Does Michael Jordan's refusal to comment on social issues open the door for LeBron James to one day eclipse him as the GOAT, the greatest of all times? We'll continue the conversation with you next. It's Rob and Chris, the Odd Couple.
All right, Craig in Houston, you're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Craig?
Not much, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I hope you guys are staying safe, man, and keeping your families safe.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you to do the same.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I think it's an insult to Muhammad Ali, man, for anyone to start comparing these guys. I was sick when they would, the whole Kaepernick thing, and they started talking about Ali. These guys, man, these youngsters, what Ali did, I mean, he put his life on the line. We used to send Muhammad Ali, the United States government would send Ali around the world to bring hostages home, to speak on behalf of world peace. It's just completely different level from these youngsters. I mean, LeBron has thrown some money at some issues, some charter schools here and there. Yep. They did the hoodie thing with Trayvon Martin, but, man, nothing compares. You remember when Ali came back from the Olympics and went to try to get a burger in Kentucky, and they wouldn't give it to him, and he threw the medal in the water.
Well, I think the thing is that back then in the 60s and 70s, just speaking out was huge.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the 60s, you could really be putting your life in danger.
You know how many people were killed and assassinated and whatnot? It was definitely a different time.
So, like, when we look at that iconic photo of Ali and Jim Brown and Kareem, Lou Alcindor at the time, and although, it's about 10 black athletes from all the different sports standing together with Ali, that group didn't come together to do anything, Rob. Like, they didn't. Jim Brown wanted to start economic empowerment for black people, but they never did. They supported Ali. They came to talk to him, but it was iconic because at that time, just speaking out was huge. Right. Now, just speaking out is nice, but we need more than speaking out. We it's a different time. You need economic empowerment. And LeBron in building schools and things like that, that's big because it's a new day. We need businesses, we need schools and all that. Just speaking out is not enough, as nice as that might be.
No doubt. Let's go to Mo in San Diego. You're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Mo?
Hey, Chris Broussard, Rob Parker. I am just really excited about being on the show with you guys.
Thank you.
I listen to you guys' show all the time. You guys are outstanding.
Thanks, my man.
I just want to say that LeBron tries too hard to be the greatest. You can't anoint yourself the greatest of all times. That has to come from other people.
But hold on. I get what you say. Ali did that, though. Come on.
No, Ali,
he did it far more than LeBron.
But I don't look at it the same way. I know we argue about this all the time,
right.
Chris. I don't look at it the same way.
But how you look at it, that doesn't change the fact. I'm not bothered by Ali doing it. I was fine with it. But we can't sit here and say criticize LeBron for saying he's the GOAT when that was actually part of Muhammad Ali's whole persona. And back then, boxers weren't talking like that. We can't be like, oh, that's boxing. No, he was like one of the first to talk like that.
I don't look at it. I just don't look at it the same way. I really don't. When LeBron sits there on this barbershop show, sits there and goes, oh yeah, when we came back from 3-1, that's when I knew I was the GOAT. I don't look at that.
How's it different?
The same way. It just does. One to me was more of a marketing. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm telling everybody this. That's the way I took it. I really did, like an act.
Rob, if somebody,
an act. I'm just telling you, that's how I took it.
Because it was funny. A lot of it was funny. He was so clever and all that and charismatic. But let's keep it real.
And the rhymes and all that.
Right.
I mean, to me.
But let's keep it real. If an athlete came out today in whatever sport and was talking like that, I'm the greatest, I'm the prettiest, and kept doing it over and over again, people would be aggravated with. They were aggravated with Ali before he beat Liston.
A lot of people hated Ali.
Black people was like, what does it do? Crazy?
They wanted him to get his block knocked off.
Right.
Kind of like.
I think it's. I liked it. I mean, like you said, it was kind of an act, but it was funny. It was fun. But I think he also meant it.
Yeah.
And Floyd Mayweather's another one.
Yeah. Well,
he does it too.
People want to see Floyd get his block knocked off as well. Andre in Massachusetts, you're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up?
Not too much. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, LeBron cannot surpass Michael on the basis of social justice activism because Michael Jordan, in his own right, has been very active. LeBron more extroverted, Michael more introverted. My point of fact is, in 2016, when we had the rash of police shooting of unarmed black men, Michael Jordan gave $1 million to both police associations, and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. So he's done things. He just does it more quietly.
What year was that?
Yeah, he
that
did.
was
a few years ago.
That was 2016. And my last point would be, listen, over time, when Spike Lee wanted to make the Malcolm X film that he knew he needed to make, but the studio wouldn't give him the necessary funds, who did he reach out to? The Michael Jordans, the Magic Johnsons of the world, to get that funding, so he could produce the picture that he needs to do. He does things, it's just more behind the scenes, but he's understanding and supportive of many causes.
No, and I think that's fair that,
it is fair.
He has done some things. There's no doubt about it.
And I mentioned that in my column, that he just does it quietly.
You did, actually. I did. Right. And it's all been post-retirement. That's the difference. Not that he didn't, I'm sure he did good deeds when he was playing, but as far as racial situations, it's been post-retirement. And again, him being a black owner, Rob, that says something too. I mean, it's business, but it's also a definite step forward for African-American people.